July 1941. A dimly lit room beneath Whitehall, London. Rain rattles against the window panes as a storm rolls over the city, thunder rumbling faintly beneath the hum of war machines above. In the underground chambers of the Air Ministry, a 29-year-old physicist named Reginald Victor Jones stands before a board of officers in RAF blue. His voice is calm, but urgent. "Gentlemen," he says, sliding a sheet of aluminum foil across the table. "This is how we blind the German radar." The room stirs. Air Vice Marshal Edward Addison leans back, arms folded, one eyebrow raised. Around him, the smell of tobacco and damp wool hangs heavy. Jones picks up the strip of foil, just 6 inches long, half an inch wide, and holds it under the light. When dropped in the thousands, Jones explains, each piece reflects radar waves. To the enemy, it will look like 1,000 bombers. Their screens will light up like a Christmas tree. Silence, then muffled laughter. One officer mutters, "You're suggesting we throw tinfoil at the Reich?" Another shakes his head. "Clever, perhaps, but suicidal. If they find out, they'll do the same to us." Jones doesn't flinch. "If we don't act, they'll keep shooting our boys out of the sky." The year is 1941, and Germany's radar network, the Freya and Würzburg systems, has proven terrifyingly effective. From Norway to the Bay of Biscay, an invisible shield watches for RAF bombers, giving the Luftwaffe time to intercept. Night after night, British pilots vanish in flak and fire before they even reach their targets. But Jones sees the weakness. He's been intercepting signals, mapping frequencies, reading the invisible patterns of war, and where others see walls of data, he sees a way in. Still, his superiors won't risk it. The idea is filed away, under impractical. Months pass. Over the Channel, Operation Gomorrah, the bombing of Hamburg, looms on the horizon. The RAF is bleeding, its crews flying into radar-guided death traps. And yet, deep in Jones's laboratory at the University of Aberdeen, the physicist keeps refining his idea. Rolls of aluminum are cut into strips. He measures, calibrates, calculates the wavelength of German radar down to the millimeter. One night, under blackout curtains, he tests it himself. He drops a handful of foil from a rooftop, then tracks it on a receiver. The result is electric. The radar echoes bloom, smear, and multiply. The perfect illusion of an incoming fleet. Jones smiles. They'll never see us coming. But across the Channel, in occupied France, the Germans are watching too. Inside a Luftwaffe radar bunker near Calais, Major Otto Becker frowns at a wall of screens. The Freya system hums softly, steady, precise. His operators trace Allied movements in the dark, calling out bearings in clipped German. Becker's voice is calm, but his eyes are tired. Every blip means lives. Fighters scrambled, fuel spent, ammunition burned. And then, one night in late 42, something strange happens. A false echo appears, then another. 1,000 phantom bombers light up the scopes, then vanish. Signal interference, Becker growls. Or something else. Back in London, Jones receives the report. He smiles faintly. They're starting to notice. He knows it's working. He knows the future of air warfare will be decided not in the skies, but in the frequencies between them. The aluminum strips, codenamed Window, are ready. All that's missing is permission to use them. And as the Battle of Hamburg approaches, desperation finally outweighs caution. The order comes through. Deploy Window. Jones watches as crates of foil are loaded into Lancaster bombers at RAF Scampton. The night is cool and windless. The crews joke nervously, not quite understanding what they're carrying, or how it could change everything. At 10:58 p.m., engines roar to life. The runway trembles. One by one, the Lancasters lift into the dark. Jones stands on the tarmac, hands in his coat pockets, eyes fixed on the faint silhouettes fading northward. "This," he whispers, "is for every man who never came back." The bombers vanish into cloud, and somewhere, far to the east, German radar screens are about to go blind. July 24th, 1943, Hamburg, Germany, 11:20 p.m. The air above the city hums with tension. Somewhere out over the North Sea, the faint rumble of engines begins to build. Distant, thunderous, alive. On the outskirts of Hamburg, in a squat concrete bunker overlooking the Elbe, Luftwaffe radar officer Lieutenant Karl Brenner squints at a glowing green scope. "Multiple contacts," an operator calls out. 200, no, 300, heading due east. Brenner leans closer. The line of blips thickens. Then, impossibly, it doubles. He feels the hairs on his neck rise. That can't be right. Check calibration. The operator frowns, twisting knobs, adjusting gain. Nothing changes. The echoes only grow brighter, multiplying into a storm of false signals. What in God's name? The bunker erupts in shouts. Telephones ring. Reports flood in from other stations. Hundreds of bombers. Thousands! The entire German air defense grid flickers with chaos. Fighter controllers scream for clarity, but every radar set from Bremen to Kiel tells a different story. To Brenner, it looks as though an entire fleet of bombers has materialized from thin air. Yet when spotlights rake the sky outside, they reveal only blackness. No wings, no engines, just silence. Then, from the far distance, the faint whistle of falling bombs. He runs for the door. Outside, the horizon flashes white. The first waves of RAF Lancasters have reached Hamburg. Overhead, the bombers fly steady and unhindered, their formations tight and disciplined. Each aircraft carries hundreds of strips of window, bundles of metallic foil bound with string. At a prearranged signal, aircrews reach into the bundles and toss them through open hatches. The foil bursts into the slipstream, scattering like glittering rain across the night sky. Under moonlight, it looks almost beautiful, a silver storm drifting downward over Europe. But on the ground, the effect is apocalyptic. Every radar operator in northern Germany is staring into madness. The Würzburg sets, tuned to a narrow frequency, light up with hundreds of false returns. Blips appear, merge, vanish, reappear. A kaleidoscope of confusion. Becker, the radar major from Calais, is now in Hamburg overseeing air defense. He pounds his fist on the console. It's not interference. It's deliberate. They're jamming us. Impossible, another officer insists. There's no known equipment that could do this. Becker doesn't answer. He stares at the chaos of signals, the ghosts of bombers that don't exist. Then, through the noise, the ground begins to shake. The windows rattle. Somewhere in the city, a fuel depot erupts in flame. Above the inferno, British pilot squadron leader Peter Chalmers banks his Lancaster hard to port, watching through the blister turret as fire blooms beneath him. He can't believe what he's seeing. The searchlights aren't tracking. The flak is wild and unfocused. "They can't see us," he says into his radio, voice low with awe. "They can't see us." His navigator, grinning through the dim red light, replies, "Then let's give 'em something to remember." Bomb bay doors open. The release levers click. The payload falls silently into the burning heart of Hamburg. Back in England, at RAF Bomber Command Headquarters, R.V. Jones stands beside Air Chief Marshal Arthur Bomber Harris, watching the operation unfold through incoming reports. The room glows with the soft light of plotting tables and radio sets. The air smells of oil and cigarettes. "Any sign they've adapted?" Harris asks. Jones shakes his head. "Not yet. They're blind. Completely blind." Harris exhales, almost disbelieving. "Then tonight, Dr. Jones, you may have changed the war." By dawn, the city of Hamburg is unrecognizable. Smoke rises 10,000 feet into the sky. Tens of thousands are dead. The firestorm is visible from 200 miles away. But what truly shocks Berlin is not the destruction, it's how it happened. Their vaunted radar network, the pride of the Luftwaffe, had failed overnight. And the reason wasn't a new bomber, or secret weapon, or radio beam. It was tinfoil, aluminum strips, dropped by hand from British bombers, had made the Reich blind. And as word spreads through Allied command, the question becomes, if radar can be fooled once, what else can be hidden from sight? August 1943, Berlin, Germany. In a dimly lit office inside the Reichsluftfahrtministerium, the Air Ministry, General Josef Kammhuber stands at the head of a long table. The walls are lined with maps, concentric circles of radar coverage, arrows showing bomber flight paths, and red pins marking the smouldering ruins of Hamburg. Round him sit a dozen senior Luftwaffe officers, their faces drawn and pale under the yellow light. This, Kammhuber begins, tapping the edge of the map, is not a failure of courage or discipline. It is a failure of science. He points to a small strip of shiny metal on the table, a captured piece of window. Each one is 27 centimeters long, the same wavelength as our Würzburg radar. Each one, gentlemen, reflects our signals back at us. There's a long silence. So, one colonel mutters bitterly, they defeated the Reichsradar empire with confetti. Kammhuber doesn't smile. Yes, confetti. He turns toward the windows, where the morning light filters through smoke from distant bomb damage. And until we find a way to see through it, we are blind. Across the channel, in a cluttered London laboratory, R.V. Jones and his small team of physicists are already working on the next step. The war for the skies has shifted from bullets and bombs to frequency and deception. Jones sits at a wooden desk covered in scraps of foil, circuit boards, and radar schematics. He scribbles notes furiously while an operator tests radar reflections using a small metal plate suspended from string. Window worked, says Wing Commander Charles Franklin, leaning against the doorframe. More than anyone could have imagined. Jones doesn't look up. It worked once, that's all. The Germans will adapt, alter their wavelengths, filter their echoes. We'll need to stay ahead. Franklin smirks. You always think they're smarter than they are. Jones pauses, then turns in his chair. Underestimating the enemy, he says softly, is how wars are lost. He returns to his notes. On the page, he sketched a diagram of a radar pulse, reflecting off moving metal strips, a swarm of false echoes. In the margin, he's written a single word, disguise Chomsal. Meanwhile, the RAF keeps pushing its advantage. August 1943. Night raids continue. Nuremberg, Essen, Stuttgart. Each time, the bombers deploy window, and each time, the Luftwaffe's response grows more frantic. Searchlights sweep blindly across the sky. Flak batteries fire into the darkness, guided only by sound. British crews begin to call the operation the Silver Rain. In one Lancaster bomber, Flight Sergeant Alan Mortimer watches the glittering cascade through his gun sight. It's like Christmas, he mutters through his oxygen mask. Below, the Rhine Valley burns. The men know that for every bundle of foil they drop, hundreds of civilians below are dying, but they also know it's the only way to end the war sooner. In the debriefing room back in Lincolnshire, air crews pin pieces of window to the wall, tokens of the mission. Beside them are photographs of Hamburg and Cologne, charred and broken. Someone scrawls on the wall with chalk, blind them and they can't stop us. But in Germany, the humiliation festers. By late August, reports pour into Berlin from radar stations across occupied Europe. Every technician, every commander has the same complaint. The echoes multiply. We can no longer distinguish reality from illusion. The once feared Kammhuber line, the intricate night fighter defense grid that stretched from Denmark to France, lies shattered. Its carefully calibrated radar zones are now meaningless, washed out by false returns. Night fighters scramble, circle aimlessly, and return low on fuel without sighting a single enemy. Some collide in the dark, others crash trying to land through smoke. A desperate Luftwaffe scientist suggests building radar immune to window. Another proposes switching to infrared detection. Both projects are too late. The Allies have found the rhythm of deception, and they won't stop. By autumn, the Allies begin to use window in daylight raids too, in combination with chaff corridors, fake radio chatter, and electronic ghost squadrons. The Germans, once proud of their technical superiority, now drown in data they can't trust. A single RAF squadron can make it appear as if 1,000 bombers are inbound. And deep in his lab, R.V. Jones understands the full power of what he's unleashed. It's no longer about metal or munitions. It's about belief. Whoever controls what the enemy sees, controls the war itself. He writes one final note in his journal that night, lit only by the dull glow of a desk lamp. The true battlefield is invisible. The hum of London's air raid sirens rises in the distance. He doesn't flinch. He simply closes the notebook and whispers to himself, "Let them come. They won't see us." November 1943. High above the Ruhr Valley, the sky is a graveyard of light. Flak bursts ripple through the night. Blooming spheres of fire suspended in darkness. Dozens of RAF Lancasters drone steadily toward their targets, each crew following the green navigation lights of the aircraft ahead, trusting their instruments more than their eyes. Inside one bomber, pilot officer Hugh Carter checks his altimeter. "Hold steady at 19,000, he calls. The navigator confirms, pencil scratching on his chart. Then, in the bomb bay, a crewman pulls open a small metal hatch and releases several bundles of shiny strips. They flutter out into the slipstream, scattering into the cold air like silver snow. Within seconds, the German radar network begins to scream. Operators in darkened bunkers watch in horror as their scopes light up. Not with one target, but with hundreds. The echoes multiply, dance, merge, and scatter. There's no way to tell where the bombers really are. "Sie sind überall," one shouts. They're everywhere. Commanders try to redirect their night fighters, but their orders are blind guesses. Fighter pilots climb into the darkness, searching for ghosts. By dawn, another German industrial centre is in flames. In London, R.V. Jones watches the after-action reports come in. His office is quiet, except for the hum of an electric fan and the faint rattle of typewriters outside. On his desk lies a coded message from Bomber Command. "Window success confirmed. Night fighter interception rate, near zero." He leans back, weary but proud. Around him, the war's other secrets: radar jamming, false beacons, decoy transmissions, fill filing cabinets stacked to the ceiling. The air smells of paper and burnt dust from overworked machines. "Crazy," he mutters with a faint smile, remembering how the Air Ministry once dismissed him. They called it a madman's idea. He rubs his eyes, thinking of the young aircrews risking their lives nightly over occupied Europe. Every strip of window they drop might be one more life saved, or one more step closer to the end of the war. Outside, the rain beats softly against the windows of Whitehall. London sleeps uneasily beneath it, unaware that the course of the air war has quietly shifted forever. Meanwhile, deep beneath the earth at a Luftwaffe radar station near Calais, the mood is very different. A German radar technician named Karl Weber adjusts the dials on his Würzburg set, sweat glistening on his temples. His commander, Oberleutnant Reinhardt, leans over his shoulder, his voice sharp and anxious. "Can you isolate the real targets?" Weber shakes his head. "No, sir. Every signal looks the same. The British have turned the air itself into a weapon." The scope flickers. Dozens of glowing dots appear, vanish, reappear. Hundreds of phantom bombers that could be anywhere or nowhere at all. Reinhardt slams his fist against the console. "Then we are fighting smoke." He's right. The Kammhuber line, once Germany's shield, has become obsolete. The enemy now hides behind illusions. Weeks later, Allied bombers strike Berlin. For the first time, the capital itself lies exposed. The German people had been told their radar and fighters would protect them, that science was their safeguard. But that night, as window rains down over the city, the air defense network collapses once more. From his command post, General Kammhuber watches powerless as the city burns. His men stare at blank radar screens, unable to distinguish a single real aircraft from the chaos of reflections. In the chaos, he mutters under his breath, a bitter, reluctant admiration. "They've beaten us at our own game." Back in Britain, Jones receives an intercepted German message. It's brief, almost poetic in its defeat. Our eyes have been blinded by their tinfoil rain. He stares at the words for a long moment before folding the paper and slipping it into his coat pocket. For the first time, he allows himself a quiet smile. It isn't triumph or arrogance, it's relief. Because Jones understands something few others do. This war will not be won solely by strength or courage. It will be won by minds willing to see what others cannot. He looks out the window toward the grey London dawn, where the first light of morning glints faintly off rooftops, as if the city itself were dusted in window. The silver rain that blinded Germany has become the reflection of victory, and somewhere above the clouds, unseen by radar,